Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Good to Know Shreveport Bossier. This is a podcast that showcases the good things happening in our community. My name is Jeff Beinfor. Over here to my left, that's Paul Reeser. He's the co-host for this program. He's the former president of the Reeser Group and Sonic Management Company and a committee of 100 board member. And every week we'll take a focus on economic development opportunities and growth and all the good things going on, having positive impacts in our community. We'll have new episodes every other Wednesday, and you can listen to this Good to Know podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, with a video version available at ktbs.com. So we have another special guest today. Paul, take it away.
Yeah, another super guest. I'm glad to be able to introduce, because Jennifer Martin, she is with Shriners Hospital. And Shriners is an amazing hospital. It's located here in Shreveport, and I found out it was the very first Shriners Hospital in the country. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having
Jennifer,
us. It's been an exciting year celebrating our 100th anniversary. So
like I say, I'm proud about Shriners. I visited there a few times during different opportunities, but can you tell us a little bit about Shriners Hospital? Why it's so cool? And
absolutely.
It's Shreveport.
Well, I mean, there's so much I could cover. We could do this like for hours, and I would happily do that because there's so much that we could talk about. But as of now, right now, what we treat is cleft lip and palate. We treat a lot of orthopedic issues. We treat club foot, scoliosis. We treat a lot of cerebral palsy. And so we see a lot of fractures.
And is this mostly with children or only with children?
Only with children. We treat
and
zero.
You make sure there's no cost to that child.
Correct, okay. Correct. We treat regardless of a family's ability to pay. So they can have no insurance. They can have partial insurance. We'll waive the copay. We waive the deductible. All of that is taken care of. We will bill the insurance company for what we can, of course. So because 75% of what funds us is donations. So we don't make a ton of money from insurance companies, but as much as we could, we'd love to.
Well, when I was a kid, I was an athlete and everything growing up. I've read every sports magazine I could read, and when I was a kid, I don't think it still exists anymore, but there was a Shriners all-star football game, college football game.
Yes, we still have it.
It still goes, okay.
Yes.
And I remember the headline of that particular article. It's always stuck with me for the last 1,000 years, I'm not sure, but it was strong legs run so that weak legs may walk. And I don't know why that stuck with me, but it stuck with me forever. So kind of take us through what the meaning of that is. It's pretty apparent, but...
Well, originally Shriners started in 1922, and we were the first hospital in Shreveport, but we originally were created to treat polio. And polio itself was eradicated in 1955, at least in the United States. And so we had a lot of children who couldn't walk, and so short legs can run. And so we treated a lot of that, surgery, the iron lung, several things that used to happen. But now that polio had been eradicated, Shriners, just like everything else, evolved to treat. There's burn hospitals. We are not a burn hospital here in Shreveport. The closest one is Galveston, and it was also the very first burn hospital, so we like to share that with them. And so we treat a lot of orthopedic issues. So we see a lot of cerebral palsy, spina bifida, like I said, scoliosis, pretty much anything that has to do with your bones. So your hands, your arms, all of those things. So And it just really depends on if they need our services or not. We always like to say get a second opinion, because surgery is not always the answer.
And it's just for the kids.
Absolutely, just for the kids.
When you're talking about a child that has one of these, like you said, a club foot, but there's also some very severe issues that you treat, and I know a parent are like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? My child can't walk, or they can't stand up straight, or they have these scary issues, and you're able to treat them at your hospital. It's a really neat atmosphere when you go in there, how much you do for the kids.
It's so much fun to walk through the clinic, just to see all the kids playing. They don't think they're sick. This is how they've been, unless there's been some kind of traumatic issue. But we have one young man that came to us when he was about 2. He was born without his right leg. And so his parents were just like you said, very worried and freaked out and not sure what was going to happen. And Hayes is 9 now, and he plays golf, he plays tennis, he loves LSU football. So, it's just amazing to see how far they can come. That's why we like to say, we make the dreams come true.
So if parents need your services? Hopefully they don't, but if they do, how do they avail themselves of it?
You do not have to have a referral to come to Shriners. So all you have to do is call Shriners and ask for intake and tell them your issue. And I've had people call me and ask me if we treat XYZ, and I'm not a doctor, so I usually
Yeah.
say, before I answer that, let me get you to someone who can. So I always say call no matter what to make sure there isn't something we could possibly do, or there might be something one of our other locations could do, because we have facilities all over the world.
I'm sure these parents, a lot of them probably can't pay. So when they find out how your services are provided, that takes another huge weight off of their shoulders, right?
We had a young girl come to us. She'd broken her arm really, really badly. She was 5. She fell off a playground swing set. And so when they got referred to Shriners, they were just panicking, thinking, how are we going to pay for this? Because she needed like 2 surgeries. And when it all came said and done, and they realized that they weren't going to get a bill, they were just in shock. And so and Lindy is super cute, and she loved coming to us, and she said she was going to break her other arm just so she could come back.
Gosh.
I hope you told her not to do that.
Yeah, we told her no.
We'll have a Zoom call. So, I mean, I just can't imagine the relief of the parents that know that this is available and something you can do. It's life-changing. One, it's life-changing that there are things that you can fix, and it's also life-changing that you're not going to be devastatingly crippled with debt for the rest of your life, because people do, obviously anything for their kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would highly recommend, I mean, if you think your child has an issue. My niece hurt herself playing soccer. I have a grandbaby who was born with a lip tongue tie. I didn't even know that was a thing until about a year ago. And so they're watching that. She has a follow-up appointment coming up, and so they're watching that just to make sure if there's anything that needs to be done or if she'll outgrow it. And so it's just a great resource just to make sure everything's okay, especially for broken bones.
Where do these children come from? Is it just local in Shreveport, or?
The majority of our patients actually come within a 200-mile radius. But
So it's a large area.
Oh, but we cover 6 states. So we
Okay.
get patients from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Southern Alabama, Louisiana. And then we treat some patients from out of the country. Every Shriner location treats patients from a different part of the world.
Well, my uncle in St. Louis is a Shriner, as I mentioned to you, and I always remember him wearing the fez, the hat, and he would go, I don't know when all the occasions were, but I remember him doing service projects to raise money for the hospital.
That brings up my question. What is a Shriner?
Yeah.
It looks.
They wear little cool hats.
I know they wear
And they
hats,
drive the little cars.
And they
the
drive
little
that,
cars.
yes. The parade at my always the homecoming parade. They would always do that. That was like the coolest part of the parade, right?
I do like the little cars.
Yeah.
So tell
But your dad's a Shriner. Your uncle was a Shriner.
He was a Shriner. My older cousin was a Shriner. He went through the Masons.
What is a Shriner, and why do they have hospitals?
The Shriners came out of the Masons. So you have the Masonic lodges, and they were around from 1800s. And in the late 1800s, the Masons are very
Closed.
not closed. They're just very, very formal.
Actually, my dad, but I remember his book, and I'm reading the book, right? And it was gibberish to me. They had to memorize all this
Yes.
stuff. I don't have any idea what it was or what it said.
Yes, they have a lot of funny names and a lot of funny hats and a lot of funny titles and.
We're in trouble now.
Yeah.
Well,
Jeff's making fun of the Masons.
I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I just didn't understand it. I just didn't.
Exactly. So the Masons were just, a civic group that you could join, back in the day.
I always thought it was like the Elks Lodge or something
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
But apparently it's a little deeper.
It's a little deeper because you got to be a really good person to join. So
Oh,
it's a
really?
fraternity.
Well, that's why we were never invited, Jeff.
Speak for yourself.
And so in the late 1800s, there was a couple of Masons who went to the Far East, and they thought, well, this looks really neat. The capes and the hats, like the fez, that all the sheiks wear and the princes, and with the Masons being so formal, they said, we need to create something that's about fun, fellowship and philanthropy.
Okay. Oh, I
And
like
so
that.
the Shriners were created, and that's why they have the regalia that they do. They don't worship anything crazy. They just have funny hats and funny names like Potentate and Divan
I
and
remember
Oriental Guide and strange things like that to us. And then, so in the 1920s, they decided they needed to come up with something that they could fund in perpetuity, because they'd been helping several things after hurricanes, after fires, and so they wanted to come up with something that they could really get behind forever, which is where they came up with the idea of helping children with polio. And so in 1921 they voted to do that, and we weren't originally going to be the first location. The first location was going to be in St. Louis.
Was it? Okay.
But we had a man here who was part of the El Caruba Shrine. He founded it, and he was kind of a mover and shaker in town. And he bought some land, which is where we are today. And he talked to some orthopedic surgeons. And the next time they had their Imperial session, again, strange names, basically their national meeting, they made the pitch. And there were people from New Orleans, people from Dallas who were behind our coalition to bring the first hospital to Shreveport. So.
Wow.
It's amazing how things like this get born with just an idea from one guy, and they just like develop over the decades and continue to do great work like the Shriners Hospital. It's great stuff.
Well, imagine in 1922, where we are located on Kings Highway, there was nothing. And the reason we were put there, because that was the end of where the trolley ended.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always thought LSU came first, but no, we were there first. You know, I mean, it's just crazy. And we're right there on I-49. I mean, we couldn't have planned that any better.
Right. Well, good foresight.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly.
right.
So my friend Ed Walsh told me that there are some changes coming, and how did he say it exactly? He said there's some changes coming to the hospital and how it operates. Can you explain that?
Sure.
So I don't even know.
Well, medicine has changed a lot since 1922. And originally we were a 60-bed facility. We had a girls' wing and a boys' wing. And then when the new hospital was built in 1985, we went down to 45 beds. And as medical technology has changed, so many of the things we do, we have treatments now that are non-surgical, which means we don't need a patient to stay overnight, or it's a day surgery, which means we don't have to make that child and that parent stay away from home overnight. And so a lot of the things that we do have just evolved because of technology. I mean, we have an actual kit that we can show you from 1922 for blood transfusions with reusable needles. Ooh. So if you think about that to where we are today, I mean, people have a baby and they leave the next day. So those are some of the changes, and we're going to be expanding our footprint by offering surgeries at other locations. So we're going to work with partners at LSU, St. Mary's, Willis-Knighton, and we've been doing that for about a year now, being able to have surgeries at those different locations.
So you won't do any more surgeries at your location?
We'll do a few surgeries at our location. It'll just really depend on the patient, because I have a lot of people say, well, I don't see how if you have surgery for these 19,000 children you treat a year, how is that possible? Well, we don't give surgery. Not everybody needs surgery.
Right.
Luckily, my niece didn't need surgery when she messed up her ankle. You know, she just needed some physical therapy. So our building will remain, and we'll still have X-ray, the clinic. We'll still have POPS, which is our prosthetics and orthotics department, where we make the braces for scoliosis or knee braces or Hayes's leg. You know, really cool things like that.
But you create partnerships with all these other medical facilities.
Absolutely, and that way we can treat more kids in more places at more times, because there's only 2 ORs at our current location. So this gives us the ability to have more surgeries at multiple locations for multiple time frames.
I'm curious, is there any interaction between Shriners and St. Jude?
There is some. We treat really different things.
Right.
So we don't overlap, but we have had cases where a child was treated for cancer and it messed up their bone structure. The chemo messed up the bone structure, and so we've had to go in and that's a rarity, luckily. So we don't really overlap in that sense.
Yeah.
And then the St. Jude affiliate's right next door at Feisweiler.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, I was just curious.
Oh no, I usually
because they all
Yeah.
specialize in treating kids, right?
absolutely, and people usually get us mixed up all the time, and that's okay.
Yeah, two
'Cause
great places.
Right, because we both do two
Yeah.
awesome things,
That's
and
right.
so a lot of our donors who give to Shriners give to St. Jude as well.
Do you still hold on? I mean, you mentioned how much medicine has changed, but do you still hold on to stuff from the past, like that I mentioned that strong legs run so the weak legs may walk? I mean, do you still hold on to like things like that, those slogans and ideas?
Oh, absolutely, because that's exactly what we're still doing. We're just doing it a little bit differently. You know, once polio was eradicated, it really changed how everything had to be looked at. And then, you know, we started treating spinal cord injuries and cleft lip and palate. And so several things have just changed, and medicine has evolved so much. It's made it great for kids because it's less time away from home.
Right, right.
Now, you say it was eradicated, and it was.
Essentially.
But it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but recently I've heard like a couple of cases have popped up here and there.
Yes.
Not many, like 2 or 3, but I mean, it's kind of scary.
It's
Yeah.
very scary
Yeah.
because it was, I say eradicated, it was eradicated in the United States, meaning we didn't have a case for over 5 years. But it's still in Iraq, Afghanistan, and so it's essentially a plane ride away. And,
Yeah.
you know, we don't get polio vaccines like we used to
Yeah.
when my dad was a kid.
Yeah,
You know?
well, I got one. I can show you the mark on my arm, right?
See, everybody
prove
has
it.
them, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah,
So
so-
you probably don't. You're just
I think we had an oral when I was a kid.
oh yeah. See, that's another advance in medicine.
Exactly. Well, and then, I mean, once it's not in a country for over 5 years, they consider
That's what they call
eradicated.
eradicated.
But it's now just a plane ride away.
Yeah.
You know, if you
That's
think
true.
about
Everything
it.
is.
Everything is COVID.
The world's too small. Put up a wall, Jeff. I'm
It's
just
already
kidding.
done, man.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
And I got back from a plane ride today, which is my throat's a little, I'm a little scratchy.
Oh no, stay over
I don't
there.
think it's polio though this time.
Okay.
So how do people get involved? Like it's such a great cause, and like you say, you do take insurance, but you make sure that there's no cost to the child. So I'm sure like you said, 75% of your money comes from donations. How can people get involved, or what is it that you want to let our listeners know to get involved? How do people donate, etc.?
Well, the first thing is if you have anything that you think we can treat for your child or another child, please call us.
Okay.
So many people think that we only treat the worst of the worst kind of cases, you know,
Okay.
cerebral palsy, spina bifida, you know, severe birth defects, and that's just not the case anymore. So please call us. Please make us your first call because we have some amazing physicians who have studied pediatric orthopedics and pediatric hand surgery and limb reconstruction. Secondly, you can always have a fundraiser in any way, shape, or form. A lot of kids who are patients will do lemonade stands, or they'll do a teddy bear drive or a book drive for our kids, so that there's something to play with while they're there. But most of our funding comes from donations, and we had a gala on September the 17th as part of our 100th anniversary, and throughout this year, we've raised over $1 million just from the 100th anniversary. So we hit that mark, and then we have a very, very generous donor, David and Teresa Desir. His dad was a Shriner, and he likes to honor his memory. And so he's been given to us for several years. We have a playground named after his dad, but he created a endowment at the Community Foundation. And so if anybody wants to give to that fund specifically, that will stay in Shreveport and be given to us in perpetuity.
Now, how do they do that?
You just write a check to the Community Foundation and say it's for the Shriners Endowment.
Okay.
Do they find out through
Is it?
through your website or through you have a Facebook page that says, "Hey, sign up for the gala. We got it coming out soon." How do people find out how to get to go to the gala and get involved in all these things?
They need to go visit ShreveportFirstShriners.org.
Shreveport First, the word first?
The word first.
Okay, ShreveportFirstShriners.org.
Yes.
Because it's the first Shriners Hospital.
Did you just
Wow,
get that?
you just picked up on that.
So ShreveportFirstShriners.org has listed all of our activities that we've had this year for our 100th anniversary. And we still have a few more happening before the end of the year. The gala was kind of a big culmination, so I'm kind of glad that's out of the way. But it was so successful. A lot of special events are, kind of bombs, and this one didn't. And we made almost $1 million. So
Wow. So as director of development, is that kind of part of your project? You make sure that all these things happen?
I make sure that all the money keeps coming in.
I like it.
And I have
That's a big responsibility.
I have
it
a great
is.
team, And then, I tell everybody, I don't really ask for money. I mean, I do a few times, but, if I just tell stories about Lindy and Hayes, the money comes in because, how can you not give to children?
Right.
So,
Right. If you have kids that come to you and maybe they think there's a certain thing wrong and it turns out it's something else, how do you send them on to the right place? I mean, I assume you refer them on to other facilities? Or?
yes. So, if they come to us and they have something that we don't treat, our physicians are very well connected within the local hospital system, as well as nationally, because of all of our hospitals that we have across the United
Right,
States,
true, yeah.
Mexico, and Canada. So we've had people call us about a child's eyes, and it's just not something that we treat.
Right.
And so they were able to refer them to a special eye doctor, and it may not be local, and it may not be free, but we try the best that we can, to treat what we can.
Sure.
So it's like I said, it's always better to try than not try, in my opinion. So.
Do the certain Shriners hospitals in different areas of the country have different specialties from
Yes.
like what you guys do here?
Yes, so Galveston treats burns as well,
right.
as
Okay.
what we do, and then the hospital in Northern California treats spinal cord injuries, and then the hospital in Chicago does that as well, and there's a hospital in Boston, the hospital in Ohio treats burns as well. So, I mean, our local Shriners will send burn patients to Galveston or to, whatever hospital they need,
Yeah.
and that's where the Shriners come in. Is they really transport these children.
That's what I was going to say. I knew they did
In the
that.
little cars?
Yeah, no.
Probably not. Probably not.
It's a little hard to get the car seat strapped in.
Oh, okay.
They are fun though in those parades.
They are. And when I tell people, I'm going to travel for Shriners, they always ask me, "Are you taking a little car?"
Yeah, no, I couldn't imagine you ever heard that joke.
Nah.
You said you were good at going along with jokes.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Well, it is a remarkable service. It's very interesting to know that if you have any type of problem, that go ahead and just Google the Shriners of Shreveport, call them right away. You get in contact, you go to shrinersfirst.org.
Yeah.
First
And
And why
Shriners.
is that?
First, they're the first
Very
Shriners
good,
Hospital.
very good.
First Shriners.
First Shriners.
Shreveport First Shriners. Look at me, now I'm messing it up. ShreveportFirstShriners.org.
He has that
Shreveport
effect on
First
many people.
Shriners.org. Yes.
Or you know what? You could just pick up the phone and call us.
There you go.
Google it.
Make
You know.
it easy. So if you, like you said, if they had to go to a specialist, that might not be free.
It depends on if it's in the Shrine system or if
Yeah.
it can be referred
but
to
if
another
it is
charity
to
hospital.
another Shriner, and the transportation and everything would be covered. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
The Shriners themselves cover that. So a lot of times Shriners get a bad rap because they, are raising money, but it's for their transportation fund. And if you think about having to transport a burn victim,
Yeah.
that's a very expensive flight. I mean, there's a lot of things that are specialized for that. So, and I've never met a more caring group of board members and people who will drive hours every month just to come to a meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. So.
That's awesome.
And of course, I would be wrong if I didn't say something about the ladies groups, because there is the Daughters of the Nile and the Ladies of the Oriental Shrine.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so there are ladies groups that work to help fund Shriners. And the Daughters of the Nile, which I am a member of, have been very generous and donated billions of dollars to our hospital system.
Wow.
So yeah, and they help purchase specialized equipment, that we can check a child's gait or how their feet, if they're a little bit off or if they lean in or lean out or lean, they helped us buy a piece of equipment that helped with that tremendously, because it used to be the child had to put their foot right there when they walked. And it's really hard to do that as an adult even. So they bought us this long, very expensive technical piece that I'm sure I should remember the name of, but now all they have to do is just walk. And so it takes so much less time, and trying to get a 5-year-old to do something over and over and over again is not easy.
Me too.
How do the kids like? I mean, every kid gets scared when they go to the doctor, right? So how's the atmosphere at the Shriners to make the kids more comfortable?
Well, when you walk into our building, and nothing against Willis Knighton, but it's not like a Willis Knighton building that's 18 stories high, and and we're a very playful atmosphere. So there's toys everywhere. There's a foosball table. There's a little kids' kitchen, and we have a wonderful child life department who specialize. And I didn't know that this was a occupation, or I might have gone into it, but they specialize in distracting the child and helping them to understand what's happening to them.
Oh, wow.
And so they're watching a movie on an iPad while their leg is getting cast, and or they're playing a game with the child life specialists. We have dolls that we show them exactly what's going to happen during their surgery.
Oh, nice.
And we've even taken a doll and made a prosthetic leg for it, just like the little girl. And I have a great picture. Her leg's purple, just like the little girl's, and that way she could practice putting it on the little girl, so she could figure out how to do it herself.
That's kind of neat.
Great idea.
Child life specialists.
Child life specialists.
Yeah,
I know.
That's a great idea.
I know. Yeah. So it's amazing, because I feel like they make the whole difference in our hospital. And of course,
Absolutely.
back in the day, we used to have a teacher, because people were with us for months at a time, and you're just not now. And so we do have a classroom if somebody does have to stay with us for a while, but a lot of times those are our out-of-country patients. So
I think that would help with any patient, to give them the information, to really, because they just sit there and say, what's happening to me? But with a child, it's especially important. So what a great resource to go in and explain to them what's happening, to take that fear away. Hey, you know what, Jeff? That's good to know.
I heard that. That's a rumor floating around. So you said there's a few more events on your calendar before the end of the year, I guess fundraisers. What's up next?
Oh yeah, well, you can always donate to Shriners, which I highly, highly encourage. And if you wanted to do a third-party fundraiser, those are a lot of fun for different groups to do, or businesses, where they'll do a clay shoot, or a gun shoot, or a golf tournament. All the way, like I said, all the way down to a lemonade stand. It just depends.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fishing tournaments on Toledo Bend for Shriners, just
Those
so
are
you know.
a big deal these days, those fishing tournaments. They probably make a lot of money for the Shriners, huh?
They're awesome. They're awesome. The Haynesville Shell bass tournament is one of my favorite. Not that the others aren't great, but Paul Pratt and his group are just amazing and so committed. And then his son Noah's been treated at our hospital, and he's had several surgeries there. So he's a great supporter for us.
That's got to be a heartwarming deal, though, to work in that atmosphere.
It is, because like I said, kids don't think they're sick. They don't know that anything's wrong because they don't have their leg. Now, there are the traumatic things that happen when they lose a limb in a car accident, or something like that. Luckily, that doesn't happen a whole lot. But then the child life specialists are there, and we put them in touch with other people who have experienced something similar, so that they can have their little support group. But we always encourage tours. If you would like to come take a tour of Shriners, I need you to call me and make an appointment, because we're still masked and following some COVID rules, but we can easily give a tour.
Call Jennifer. You want to give out your cell phone number right now? Or?
Sure.
Oh, I'm kidding.
Just
really?
call Shriners.
Okay.
No, just call Shriners and ask for Jennifer, and you'll either get me or another lady that works with me, whose name is Jennifer. And we love to give
You will
tours.
Get a Jennifer.
Yeah.
Jennifer and Jennifer. I know it works.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great resource. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been an exciting year. So
Not over yet.
No, it's not over yet. Not over yet.
Well, listen, thanks for being here. I really, I wasn't kidding when I said that slogan stuck with me forever. I mean, it just stuck with me, and I think that the work you guys do is amazing.
It is.
You're to be commended for that. So,
Thanks
for everything you do.
Yes, ma'am.
And thanks for being here today.
I love it. I'd come back, and like I said, I could talk about this for hours.
Well, don't say that. We might have to drag you back here again one day.
I might have something really cool to talk about next.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
Thank you
so much.
Jennifer Martin from Shriners Hospital. Thank you as well for being with us on this podcast of Good to Know Shreveport Bossier, brought to you by the Committee of 100 and KTVS TV. Remember to tell all your friends and colleagues about this podcast. New content every other Wednesday. For more information, you can check us out at goodtoknowsb.com. And have a great day. Let's make Shreveport Bossier a great place to be. And as always, all of this is good to know. Have a good one, everybody.